everyone, Joe here from ActionX. Welcome to What's in the Tuber. Welcome back. This is your third Heal Season 2 episode review. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're staying safe out there in the big old world. To clarify, yeah, once again, the setup looks different. Was doing some reorganizing. The new setup is being made as we speak. I'm still missing some tools, and it's going to also be like a little bit of a troubleshooting to get everything worked out with how I envision things going forward. So that is going to require a little bit more time out of me. So if however long this temporary setup does last, I do apologize. But by next week's episode review, we should be back to normal, hopefully speaking. But as for this week's episode, this kind of felt like a longer way to, speaking of normal, like to a new normal, where this episode resolves some of the loose threads from season 1 in a way, as well as fully kicking off to what season 2 has to be. Because it feels like as much as this is, like I said before, this does not feel like Heal Season 2. This just feels like more of the same, which is great because the show so far has been great. It's been amazing at times. And, you know, this episode definitely continues that trend as we continue the journey specifically on just what is everyone's next move next, you know, after, like, let's be honest, the last week for some people have been the most game-changing, like, moments in their lives. Like, you know, they can never really go back to how things were before because so much has changed, so much has happened, and honestly, it's for better and also for worse at times, because, like, you know, for me, for example, that every week in my life feels different. Like, you know, I meet new people. I'm much more progressed in where I work, how my life is. Like, every week of my life feels superiorly different than the last in a way because, like, it's always changing. It's always, like, you know, and it's always the idea for me, like, I never really like change. I never do. I think change is very important and valuable. It's also scary. And sometimes I do my best to push it off on certain things. But at the end of the day, like, it's going to happen. And, you know, it's just kind of like the inherent reaction to, like, you know, every little thing that happens to you is just, like, it's all leading to, like, what the next step's going to be for you. But, yeah, so this episode, I think, was the perfect embodiment of that as everyone's kind of, like, figuring out what is next. Like, what is the next move? What things do we need to change and kind of, like, go into, like, something a little bit different. That's kind of how I feel with this week's episode, which was, again, another great episode by far. But with that being said, let's go through the Butcher recap and talk about this week's episode of Heels. So we begin with a flashback back to when I'm gonna guess when Jack was an only child, because we didn't get anything about age. Jack is kind of like just been around. He's been like kind of a little bit like a mama's boy all of his life. They're making some box cake, which I'm like, you know what? It's every baker's first real attempt in the world of baking, where they have to bake cake from a box. However, it was for a birthday or something like that, because, like, after they baked the cake and frosted, Jack's mom notices that there's a bite missing out of there, which Jack says, yeah, I ate it, but Dad told me that he could. But his mom is like, well, no, you should be listening to me and thinking about, like, the repercussions of your actions, telling him to take down his pants so she can whip him, which, again, I completely forgot. This is a different era. Like, I think this was like 7 years or 80, so I'm like, damn, this is like a very well different time period, to be honest with you. So I can imagine that, you know, Jack is in, like, you know, very much in pain. And honestly, this is, I think, the most well done I've seen a child actor, like, really perform to pain. And I'm not trying to say that that is something that we need to be seeing every time in any sort of, like, movie or show. I'm not trying to say that at all, but I'm like, I don't know, like, every time we don't really get to it, or, like, they cut before that because, like, it's a little bit too, like, so them seeing is, like, it reminds me because, like, I come from a Latino family, so growing up, if we made a mistake, it's either the conchecta or a belt. So I'm like, yeah, you know what, and Tom's like, you know, you don't have to do that to the kid, and she's like, I'm not raising a liar. You know, this is going to help us raise him to be a better son. And Tom's like, okay, fine, can you just at least reduce the amounts you do? At least, let's meet halfway. You can still whip the boy, but you can't, like, you know, go too far on it, which I'm like, damn. Anyway, after that, Jack kind of, like, is beginning to feel more and more separated from his mom, which kind of makes sense, because, like, we never really had them have their own relationship, or at least I haven't seen season 1 in a couple of years, but, like, so far in season 2, it's always been, like, very much, you know, not cold, but, like, very much, like, brief and basic, like, you know, nothing too extended. So these incidents probably did not help Jack think of his mom very fondly. To where we come back to the present when Jack visits his mom. He's like, I had enough of this. I know you still have Ace on some family sharing plan that y'all have, so I'm gonna take your phone away to go find him. And she doesn't even retaliate. She's just like, okay. Because like I think she's just done with life. I think she's just like, okay, take my phone, go find Ace. What do you think you're gonna accomplish? Like, you're not gonna accomplish anything. So she leaves. So he leaves with the phone so that he can go and find Ace. With Jack kind of going AWOL to go find Ace, that leaves Willie in charge of the DWO. And considering the fact they're on a kind of a tight schedule, Jack is entrusting her to write the next script, the next week work for the team. So that, the promotion material, the promos, and the actual next match. So, at least if Jack does come back early, he could just slide in with her script and just continue onwards from that point onwards. And Willie's actually feeling the pressure of, she's never really done anything, of this caliber. She's mostly just been the producer behind the scenes. So her, finally taking the helm of being in charge of the whole week is a little bit, daunting for her. She's not going to lie about that. She isn't going to lie about that. Meanwhile, Crystal's training with her boyfriend with a question mark. They're doing some deadlifts. Actually, no, not deadlifts. They're doing some squats. And it's all about motivation. He's pushing her to be a stronger version of herself so that she can perform more crazy things in the ring. And they got a good partnership going, but they have not yet really talked about if they're a couple or not. And honestly, it hasn't really made sense because they've never really acknowledged it. Yeah, they kiss, but you got to have a conversation about it's never, just because you kiss a person does not mean it's a guaranteed you're going to be dating or you're going to be doing this or you're going to be doing that. You got to have that conversation afterward. As much as awkward as it can be, sometimes you got to have that so you know where you stand on it. I believe from that point onwards, we get over to so Willie's developing the script. She even calls Crystal in to get some ideas back and forth from them, actually pitching, which is kind of weird because, again, last week they were trust in Jack. Jack will do you no wrong. Whatever purpose he has for you this week, he will make sure it is done. And then if you are not going to win the belt, you ain't going to win the belt. Now this week's give me all your ideas. Give me everything. Which, I know that's Willie, she's clawing for, she needs help. It's not something that, she's trained to do. So I'm this is a little bit dangerous. Or not dangerous, but a little bit scary for her. And they're going some great ideas. They're scripting out the promo for the week. How do we capitalize Crystal now being the official champ? How do we continue her bout to keep it? Which I'm again, I'm not into wrestling. I'm not really not. And I'm just so when you're the champ, how is this format? Because the DWL is so tiny. So it's how do you really keep it going week to week? That's just what I'm curious about, to be honest with you. But they're getting a good flow over there. They're getting some good ideas. Meanwhile, across the room, Wild Bill is actually making do on his promise to start promoting the DWL in his own fashion by starting the official Wild Bill podcast, where it's all about Wild Bill, all about his antics in previous leagues and how he is now in the DWL. So again, it's all about promoting. He's still trying to help out the DWL in his own way by still benefiting himself. And it's I really hope the other wrestler dude, the Hispanic, I'm hoping that he actually gets paid for this because this is extra work. Making a podcast is not easy. I tried to before a couple times. It didn't end up working off the ground. But it does take a lot of work to produce a podcast. So I really hope that Wild Bill's paying him up on the side to hey, we're going to make this podcast about me and y'all by an extension. So in their first episode, they're just trying to also use it towards the matches, kind of be this. And this is exactly I'm not into the WWE or Raw or anything related to that because I have no idea how far, do you have to watch every little thing to understand the next match? Those are the things that are a little bit scary-ish for me in a way. So that's my only legitimate concern about it. But yeah, so they're talking about it eventually tilts over to back to the festival where Dystopia was there, and Wild Bill's kind of talking a little bit of crap about Dystopia. We'll get back to more about them in a second. Meanwhile, we cut back over fully to Rooster, who is now using his newfound financial gains to assist his father and actually giving him a much more comfortable lifestyle, which he does definitely deserve. However, once Rooster hears the podcast with Wild Bill on it and talking about Dystopia, he's okay, this isn't good. You attacking my brand, the brand that pays me my cheddar. So I'm gonna let the big boss know about this. which I assume he would know about it, considering the fact he hates the DWL, so he's going to want to, like, keep tabs on them. Meanwhile, speaking of that, let's go back over to Ace Boy, who has, he hasn't broken his leg. He has a sprain, which is not severely as bad as a broken leg, but, like, it's still pretty bad. He tries climbing, but even his upper body strength isn't enough. Plus, again, his stupid soccer shoes are just not enough to really climb this ridge. So he's kind of stuck out there. Thankfully, a pair of climbers come by and they rescue him. And they're like, okay, well, we were going to call the rescue copter, but you know what? That's just way too much work. We're just going to get you out of there ourselves. They take him back to a nearby motel room. They actually bandage him up and, like, actually kind of get him back on the path to help, but, like, they're not there to stick around. They're about to dip and go back to where they need to go. Ace simulates, they're like, well, y'all saved me, and, maybe we can, like, have some fun, have some sex. And I'm like, Ace, they were just clearly there to help you, bro. Not every girl that, like, pays attention to you wants to fuck you, okay? Let's just be honest there. Let's just be honest there. And, Ace kind of gets a little bit insulted by that because, like, he doesn't, like... This is all new for him. Like, Ace has always kind of had it his way, or, like, he's kind of, like, demanded his way. And, like, so far in this, like, self-exploration trip of his, he hasn't really gotten what he wanted, really. I mean, every time he tries to do something on his own, it's either failed or almost got him nearly in trouble. So he hasn't really been doing so well so far. Or he even has, like, a mental breakdown in the motel room once, like, once he breaks a tower bar and he's unable to fix it, he just, like, snaps. He's just, like, he's so freaking aggravated that, like, nothing is working out for him. Nothing is working out to a T. Cutting back over to Jack, who's still trying to call him. He's heading over to him right now. And all he wants to do is just get his brother back so that he can, like, fulfill his promise to his dad and try to hopefully repair things with his own family down the road, speaking. So eventually, I forgot to mention, so Willie and Crystal are still finishing up their little writing session. The rest of the wrestlers come in. They get at least the lowdown and the pitch to what Willie has so far. It seems to be pretty good. Everyone's kind of like okay, this is the right direction. Then we should be taking the platform next. Everything seems to be working well. Their usual sponsors who are, again, like, so happy. They're like, oh my god, the DWO finally scored a big win. We can finally recoup our investment. Then we're going to invest even more money into y'all. They buy them a big flat screen projector. No, they buy them a video wall so that they can, like, be more fancy in their presentation, which I'm like, honestly, yeah, I'm pretty sure these guys have not had a single piece of technological upgrade since the last couple of weeks. So I'm like, I can imagine they're just so happy that, like, finally we are getting somewhere. Now we only demand more money because I'm pretty sure this is just not even a part-time job at this point. This is just a paid hobby that they don't even get paid much to do. But everyone's happy. They're excited, like, they're getting these, like, big boosts. Willie also asked Wild Bill to, like, handle the ship, handle the training periods for the wrestlers since, Jack's out and Willie doesn't have, much expertise in the field. While she works on finishing up the script. But yeah, again, like, the rapport is building between them. Even the guy that's into Crystal asked one of the other wrestlers about, like, what does a kiss mean? Like, if a kiss goes like this, if a kiss goes like this. Okay, I don't even know why I'm trying to do it. I'm actually going a little too far here. And the guy's like, well, if she ain't doing this and if she ain't doing that, I don't know. Maybe that was a kiss of romantic intent. Maybe it's just a kiss of pity. You never really know. You just gotta ask her yourself. Which I'm like, again, communication is always key, guys. It's always key. Like, it will save you a lot of heartache and a lot of trouble and a lot of time spent if you just talk to them in the immediate zone. Meanwhile, I think we're just closing out the night, really, so far. Stacy and her son are kind of, like, again, like, going back to sleep in her friend's house, kind of, like, still very much like, yeah, we're just living life day to day, daddy's fine, we're going to get you back in school very soon, then we're just going to keep going until I feel like it's ready for us to go back home. But her son snaps at her a little bit, saying that, like, I miss dad, I want to be with dad, like, I don't want to be here anymore, I want to be home. And I'm like, honestly, I feel for the kid, because, like, as a child of divorce, like, I know how it feels of, like, things are different. Like, I do not want to be in a stranger's house right now when I could be at home. I don't think I've told this story anywhere on any of the shows I do. When my parents were getting divorced, when they separated, and there was, like, one of their legal court dates to do, and they didn't want us involved because who was going to go with who, how was the reaction going to be, because, like, again, these court trials are very, very, they're very tiring, very taxing on a person. It's an emotional drain because like the life you build is gone, and like you're not the same person. Like even if like you're all still living together, like how is the other family members gonna react? Sometimes you just don't have any control, and you're just like, I'm done. Like I if you do one bad thing in me, I'm gonna snap. And so for me, like they put me and my sister away in a friend's house for a couple days until the legal proceedings were over. And for me, I was just like very uncomfortable. Like I did not want to be here. I wanted to go home. I called every day, and it was only 2 days. But I'm like, I called every hour if I could. Like, hey, are we coming home tonight? Are we coming home tomorrow? Like, I was basically pushing them. Can y'all end this shit so I can go home because I feel totally uncomfortable. What I will not agree with is that he does snap at Stacy about like that she's a bad mom and everything. That she's keeping him away from his dad. And she's like, no, you don't get to say that sort of thing to me. Like, I'm your mom. Like, I'm doing my damn best right now. And this is not the reaction. This is not what I need to get from you right now. So please, watch yourself. And again, she does. They do apologize. They do make up. But Stacey's like again, like thinking like, am I making the right choice? Because like this is not just a choice for me as a person of like that needs to go to a better place that I belong in. But at the same time, like I have a son and I need to provide for him and I need to do what is best for my son. So should I give up my value? Not my value, but like give up my stance and like just go back to living with Jack just so that my son is happy? There's some question marks there. There's some legitimate question marks there. Yeah, Willie and Wild Bill having a late night writing session, not like that. And because Willie's just like really trying to iron out the script, her husband calls her up, just like needing her help, like telling her, "Can you please come back home? Like our daughter needs help with an essay." And she's like, I can't, like, Jack's left me in charge, like, I really need to, like, stay here and finish it up before I go home. And Wild Bill being in the same room as her, like, with a shot of alcohol, which I'm like, yeah, again, like, if I trust my wife, I would trust him. Like, I don't trust Wild Bill. I really don't. I would not trust Wild Bill with anyone that I was even remotely interested in. I will not. I want to say eventually, yeah, Jack arrives back, finally, to the motel. Where Ace is at, and honestly, this scene was really, really, really well done. This was finally the pent up aggression of the last season and 3 episodes, finally into this one scene where Jack is actually for once mentally stable. Like they're both like this isn't a screaming match. These are just 2 people that I understand like they have been through so much that yelling is not going to help them anymore. They've given up on yelling. They're just admitting and talking about what is the issue at hand here. What is everything that's going on? Like, Ace is just basically saying, fuck you. I'm done. Like, I'm done with Duffy. I'm done with you. I'm done with the DWL. Like, I'm gonna go out west. I'm gonna find my own life, my own people, my own family. Screw you, Jack. Jack's like, that's totally respectful. I totally deserve that. But what I will not tolerate from you is that I need you to know what I'm feeling deep down. And him just having the emotions of like that he's done everything just for the sake of like doing what he did. And he even admitted like the whole reason this even began was again back in the series premiere where Wild Bill came through to offer Ace a contract with his network. So basically like leaving, like that was the original intent of like Wild Bill just being the dick at the time, just like destroying the DWL, but like I'm gonna take their only gold player away, and by that point Jack has no choice but to shut it down, like an admission of defeat, basically speaking, and that's what he wanted. And Jack didn't really know how to properly correct that because like he knows Wild Bill's game, but at the same time that was such a big opportunity for Ace that could have been really, really gratifying to him, like that he can actually have a future, actually develop a life outside of the DWL, have a life outside of Duffy, and Jack took it away from him. So, and Jack's like, I'm sorry that I did that. Like, that was very immature. I shouldn't have done that. And I will completely understand if you hate me for the rest of your life, but I'm like, I just want you to understand, like, as much as I had my own, like, selfish reasons for certain things, I always did love you. I always did care about you in a very, very, very abnormal way. And honestly, Ace understands that a bit, but he still very much said, like, I'm not going back to Duffy. I'm not going back to DWL. I'm going to do my own thing. And even then, when they have a slice of pizza and they calm down a little bit more, he's like, "Yeah, I'm not going back with you. I'm not. Like, I have to keep the path I'm at. I have to keep the path that I'm going, and just, if that means like being hundreds and hundreds of miles away from Duffy, thousands of miles away, I gotta do it. I gotta do what I gotta do. But don't think like going on with your life that you and I are not good. Like, we're good, we're forgiven, but I just can't go back." Which Jack's like, you know what? That's still a good sign. I'll take it. And Jack begins to head back while Ace kind of like laments on his own about his own future. We cut over to the next day where... Actually, do we cut over to the next day? Yeah, we do. Willie finally finished up the script, but sadly the other wrestlers like kind of come in with their own ideas of what to do because, like, again, now that Jack's kind of temporarily gone and, like, the podcast kind of is minorly blowing up. It's like in like a small town sense, it's blowing up, and like in a very like large platform sense, it's a dud. But still, like, they're trying to like pitch their own ideas for the fight. And Willie's like, no, like, you guys never did this with Jack. Like, now it's me running the ship. Now y'all thinking like you can do your own thing. Like, and that's not how it works here. Follow my script. Follow what I do, and that's what it's going to be. Then eventually the secondary tech crew member comes in saying that there's some big news happening on screen, and I'm like, oh god, what happened? Did Jack and Ace get into another fight on the street after we checked it on them? That would have been a pretty low blow. But no, it turns out that it's just another domestic abuse incident where a well-known, I believe it's an NFL player, hit his wife on camera, which I'm like, well, first of all, how did anyone get access to that camera footage? Like, and who decided to leak it on the internet? Like, those are two completely different things. And then it's like the latest in like professional sports athletes in a way abusing their significant others or assaulting women on camera. Like, it's something that, like, the current environment, the current people do not want to, they don't want to see that right now. This is not something they are approving. Of course, obviously, the next fight is going to be mostly Crystal fighting these dudes, getting her ass whooped a little bit, because, like, to prove to Worf, like, she's not getting it off easy just because she's a woman. And Will is like, I admit defeat. Everyone take the day off. I need, like, a day to vent. I need a day to figure out what the hell I'm going to do next. So everyone starts dipping. Crystal stays back, still rehearsing some of the original script that Willie was writing, trying to, like, continue to, like, improve herself, like, improve her actual performance. The guy she's interested in, or the guy that's interested in her, comes in. They're about to go get lunch, and thankfully he asked the most important question: do you like me? Was the kiss a genuine thing you were feeling for me, or was that just like a celebratory in the moment kiss? And Chris is like, well, that kiss wasn't emotionally charged or anything, but this is. And so she kisses him multiple times. They say, like, okay, yeah, so we're gonna focus on the game right now, focus on the match. But yeah, I'm into you, man. I'm into you, which I'm like, bet. Sometimes you still get the win, even if you have to, like, be very oblivious to it. Willie is struggling. She's about to, like, really give up, figure out what she's gonna do next. Jack shows in, and Jack tells her the news that, yeah, Ace is not coming back. It's done. It's over. Like, we're gonna have to move on without him in some form. Continue what we've been doing with Crystal, and, like, continue to rank for the DWL to a new generation. That is at least the plan. And they kind of get a little bit of a hissy fit about it, just of, like, how everything's working right now. Willie heads off home while Jack gets a brief visitor from downstairs. Is the Dystopia people, including Rooster, who Rooster made a little meeting about the whole podcast thing, and the Dystopia guy's like, okay, you know what? The DWO has gotten some free shots in. It's time for us to shot back. And he's returning the favor. Last time Jack came to his studio, now he's coming to his studio. And he's like, very point blank, listen, Jack, listen. Like, we have an opportunity here. I'll give you commendment that you managed to to dig yourself out of a shit situation you performed at the festival. So now, here I am. Like, I'm offering you the deal of a lifetime. Let's team up. Crossover time. Dystopia versus DWL. This could be a great thing. This could be the biggest thing we both need for our platform. We can make a lot of money off this. Jack's like, nope. Absolutely not. I am not working with you. You've done so many negative things against my league, so I'm like, why would I even trust you? And he's like, you know what? You are totally right. I wouldn't trust me either. But guess what? I'm suing. If you don't do this crossover, I'm going to sue you for the assault you performed on my arena. That was not planned. You were a trespasser on my property. You assaulted me in the face. There's people everywhere. Witness it. I will grab $3 million off you, bankrupt your DWL, and basically make you wish you never even tangled with me. So that's your only choice. You can either do the crossover or get sued. Those are your only two options. And Jack has no choice but to, like, you know, I can tell by his face that, like, yeah, he's accepting the agreement, because, like, he has really no choice. He can't. The DW is finally being successful, and, like, he's not going to ruin it right now just because, like, one old dude refuses to give Jack a little bit of respect at the moment. Ace that night is sleeping back in his bed, and then for some reason Crystal's there, which I'm like, okay, this has to be a mirage. There's absolutely no way Crystal just had a passionate makeout session with someone else and he's immediately back in Ace's footsteps. Like, no way. But no, it turns out to be a nightmare for him, as she, the guy, and his dad Tom are all about to kill him somehow, which I'm like, them making Tom into a zombie was like, not what I was expecting, to be honest with you, but definitely kind of just sells the performance of, like, yeah, Ace is like, I gotta go back home, don't I? Yeah, I gotta go back home. So Ace begins his drive back to Duffy, but we don't know it's Duffy yet, but he is going back to Duffy. Yeah, later that night, Jack finally heads home. He sees the lights on in his house. He goes inside thinking someone broke in, because, like, someone just broke into the DWL arena. What could be next? Thankfully not. It's Stacy and their son. They're back home finally, and Jack apologized to her for his actions throughout the past season and a half. So. And she's like, I forgive you. Like, definitely, like, we had a lot of things to work out, but I'm glad to be home. I want to say the next day, they're all having a family breakfast together. The first time they probably had it in weeks. They're all happy. There's a knock on the door, and I'm just like, great, who's coming to breakfast? Turns out to be Ace. Ace is back in Duffy, but his mom wants no part of him. Like, you had your chance of independence to run away. Don't come back here. Do what no other Spade could have done for the last 2 and 3 generations. And you came back, and you ain't staying here. And Jack's like, yeah, no, you can crash here. Don't worry about that. And definitely, it's like the slow rebuilding of a family. Like, you know, Jack's got everything he wants again, but it's different. Now he's got to really, like, keep it. He's got to really fight for it now. But how will he fight for it? How will he deal with the crossover? What the heck is going to go happen next? I really don't know, but that was it for this week's episode of Heels, which I thought was great. It was really great. I'm a little bit torn, a little bit, my only little nitpick, like, did we have to end Ace's, time away in this episode? I was kind of thinking they were just going to stay for the halfway mark, like, next episode, and then bring him back. Like, I knew they were going to bring him back to Duffy. Like, they do not have the budget, like, hire a whole secondary cast to wherever, Ace would have ended up with had he continued his road trip. So I know he was going to come back to Duffy at some point, but at the same time, I'm just like, well, where do we fit that in now? And I'm like, you know, him coming back home, which, like, it's fair. And I'm like, I'm actually thankful they didn't spend too much time on the cliff thing, because, like, that would have kind of been boring for, like, Ace to just have his own internal monologues on the cliff and then just be saved at the end of episode 3. Like, I think they're going at a little bit of a faster pace, which I'm like, as long as the rest of the story makes sense to why, I think it works out. I'm just a little bit like, maybe we could have used an additional episode just to sell the factor of, like, you know, Jack being so isolated, not having his brother, not having his wife and kid, just to sell that a little bit more to it. But their talk in the motel room was honestly the best scene of the episode, and I love that scene. Like, the admission of, like, guilt and emotions between two manly brothers definitely was something to, like, you know, sell for that episode. After that, Willie taking charge. Same with Wild Bill in a way. Again, they're kind of growing into their own, like, you know, footing right now. Like, definitely the carnivals open up to much more possibilities for everyone in a way. And those two are joining, like, the fight of, like, now finally, you know, getting to see some of the fruits of their labor. And also Wild Bill kind of kicking off another dystopia conflict was interesting to say the least. I mean, you know, again, the dystopia people, like, it's just a rivalry thing. Like, the only thing I really, like, praised about that is, like, it's different. It's something, like, totally, like, typical. Some aspects are typical, but some are, like, a little bit different, so I do appreciate from that. Crystal kind of, again, like, being a little bit more, like, mature. I like the last episode where I think, like, she was, like, a little bit too, like, hung-go of, like, you know, trying to keep her championship belt, like, was a little bit like a child, but here, like, understanding the understanding that like there was a chance that the script they'd written for her that was going to be much more beneficial to her as her role in the DWL would have been scrapped to serve the larger conditional good in the world right now definitely was a strong thing right now to witness and everything. And definitely, yeah, so far the show is very much firing on all cylinders. You know, definitely every episode's like something new, something amazing, something great. And I can't wait to see where the next episode goes. And I think my camera died out there, I think finally. I don't really know. It just shut off there, and my screen is frozen, so I'm not 100% certain about that. But the show will go on. I'll probably just insert like this weird thingamabob. Yeah, I don't know what happened. I think the camera's dead. But yeah, so with that being said, I'm going to give this episode 2 thumbs up. I enjoyed it a whole lot. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this week's episode of Heels. I will have the conversation with you down below as always. But I believe that's going to do it for me today, everyone. So if you're unaware, this has been What's the 2 from ActionX, reviewing every episode in the second season of Heels. If you want to know what we're doing normally, What's the 2 besides our Heels episode reviews. Right now, we're currently doing Nancy Drew and High School Musical, the musical, the series episode reviews each and every week after brand new episodes on their respective platform. But if you don't care about Heels, you're in luck. We'll be back next week with another brand new episode review, so stay tuned until then. But again, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't yet. Like, favorite, share if you want to. Ring the bell and follow us on social media. But until we see each other again next week, for all you Heels out there, thank you so much for watching. So stay safe out there. Be good to each other. And as always, peace out.